Whispers beyond the tombstones. A few months ago, I visited an old cemetery in the outskirts of town. Now, I've always found cemeteries intriguing rather than scary, but what unfolded that day was something I can't easily shake off. It was a misty evening. The sun was setting, casting long shadows over the time-worn tombstones. I wandered through the rows, reading the names of those who had long departed. As I reached the older section, the atmosphere changed. It felt heavier, and an eerie stillness settled around me. Curiosity got the better of me, and I found myself drawn to a weathered mausoleum nestled in the corner. The rusty gate creaked as I pushed it open, and I stepped inside. The air inside was colder, and a faint odor of decay lingered. I couldn't shake the feeling that I was not alone. As I explored the dimly lit interior, I started to hear whispers, soft, indistinct voices that seemed to echo from the stone walls. At first, I dismissed it as the wind or my imagination playing tricks on me, but the whispers grew louder, and I could almost make out words, like distant conversations just out of reach. Suddenly, a cold breeze swept through the mausoleum, extinguishing the candles that flickered on a nearby altar. The whispers intensified, and I felt a presence, something unseen but undeniably there. Panic set in as I tried to find my way out, but the once familiar passages seemed to twist and turn, disorienting me. I stumbled upon a small chamber at the heart of the mausoleum, and that's when I saw them. Faint apparitions, ethereal figures that seemed to be lost in their own conversations. The air grew colder, and I could see my breath as I watched the ghostly scene unfold. As quickly as it began, the whispers ceased, and the apparitions faded away. I found myself standing alone in the now silent mausoleum. The once heavy atmosphere lifted, and I bolted out, vowing to never return to that cemetery again. To this day, I can't explain what I experienced. Was it the residual energy of those who had passed, or did I stumble upon something more otherworldly? Whatever it was, that evening left me with a lingering unease and a newfound respect for the mysteries that may lie beyond the tombstones in the quiet corners of forgotten cemeteries. The Cemetery Ghost. I've always been fascinated by cemeteries. I love the history and the sense of peace that they can evoke. But one cemetery in particular has always given me the creeps. It's an old, abandoned cemetery on the outskirts of town. It's overgrown with weeds, and the tombstones are weathered and crumbling. It's the kind of place that you wouldn't want to be caught in after dark. One night, I decided to explore the cemetery. I had heard rumors that it was haunted, but I didn't believe them. I thought they were just urban legends. I parked my car down the road and walked the rest of the way. As I approached the cemetery, I could feel a chill run down my spine. The air was heavy and oppressive. The only sound was the wind whistling through the trees. I entered the cemetery through a broken gate. I walked slowly down the narrow paths, my footsteps echoing in the silence. The tombstones loomed over me like sentinels. I could feel their eyes on me. I came to a clearing in the center of the cemetery. There was a large, ornate mausoleum in the middle of the clearing. I approached the mausoleum and peered through the dusty windows. Inside, I could see a coffin. The coffin was made of dark wood, and it was covered in a thick layer of dust. I could make out the shape of a body inside the coffin. I felt a sudden surge of fear. I took a step back and turned to leave, but as I turned, I saw something out of the corner of my eye. There was a figure standing behind one of the tombstones. It was a tall, slender figure wearing a long black cloak. The figure was facing away from me. I froze in fear. I didn't know what to do. I wanted to run, but my feet were rooted to the spot. The figure slowly turned to face me. The figure's face was pale and gaunt. Its eyes were sunken and hollow. It had a long, thin mouth that was curled into a wicked smile. The figure opened its mouth to speak, but no sound came out. I screamed and turned to run. I ran as fast as I could, but the figure was following me. I could hear its footsteps getting closer and closer. I reached the gate and fumbled with a lock. I finally managed to get the gate open and I ran out into the street. I didn't look back. I don't know what I saw in that cemetery, but I know that it was real, and whatever it was, I know for sure that it was evil. The Silent Graves. It was a moonlit night, the kind that gives even familiar places an eerie touch. I found myself in a cemetery I had never visited before, drawn by a strange compulsion to explore its foreign corners. The air was thick with an unsettling stillness as I wandered through the uneven rows of tombstones. The moon cast long shadows, playing tricks on my eyes. As I delved deeper into the graveyard, I noticed a peculiar section where the headstones were weathered beyond recognition. It was as if time itself had tried to erase the names and dates etched on the stones. Curiosity pushed me further into this neglected part of the cemetery. The silence was oppressive, broken only by the crunch of gravel beneath my shoes. That's when I noticed a single unmarked grave standing apart from the rest. It seemed untouched by the ravages of time, and an unnatural darkness seemed to hang over it. As I stood there, an unsettling feeling washed over me, and the temperature dropped. I couldn't shake the sensation that I was being watched. I tried to dismiss it, attributing it to the graveyard setting, but the feeling persisted. That's when I heard it, the faintest whisper, like a soft breath on the back of my neck. I turned around, expecting to see another visitor, but the graveyard was empty. The whisper grew louder, and I could almost make out words, a mournful murmur that seemed to come from the very ground beneath me. The unmarked grave seemed to exude an otherworldly presence, and a cold breeze sent a shiver down my spine. Unable to resist the eerie pull, I approached the mysterious grave. The whisper turned into a desperate plea, and I felt a hand, cold and ethereal, brush against me. Panic set in, and I stumbled backward, my heart pounding. The moon flickered as shadows danced around the silent graves. The whispering ceased, and I found myself alone once more. I fled from that cemetery, the memory of the ghostly encounter haunting my every step. To this day, I can't explain what I experienced among those silent graves. Was it the voice of a restless spirit, or a fragment of a forgotten tale? One thing's for sure, I won't be returning to that cemetery, where the quietude of the graves hides secrets that are better left undisturbed.